Bitcoin is going to $1 million a coin, but not everybody's talking about this at the same rate. I wanted to explore how different cohorts of people in the Bitcoin ecosystem talked about Bitcoin price levels and if any differences ended up becoming surfaced. So as with all the sentiment analysis that I've done so far, I've analyzed tweets across a ton of different Bitcoiners. What we're looking at in this chart right here is in the blue, Bitcoin traders, and in the gray, Bitcoiners, just broadly. So these Bitcoin traders are people that are kind of in the Bitcoin ecosystem, but will frequently buy or sell coins, and they're not always like maximalists, they're not always just stacking. And what came to the surface pretty quickly was very interesting. So for starters, let's look at the two price levels that the average Bitcoiner is talking about more frequently than traders. For starters, $1 million a coin. The average Bitcoiner talks about this much more than the people that are trading, which makes total sense because these traders are talking about very specific price levels they're targeting. Similar though to 100K a coin, which is also a price level that's a little bit more bullish, which brings me to the main point and the takeaway here when comparing these two groups of people, that the Bitcoin traders in general seem to be much more frequently, as a percentage of their total tweets about price level topics, talking about these way lower price levels. So you'll see like we've got some 90K ones here, but way down low, this is what I found the most interesting, is that these like really ridiculously low price levels that I think are complete and total bullshit that no one outside of crypto bros and traders, frankly, are talking about are way like almost like I think it was like 80 or 90% higher mention rate across these two cohorts. Now this effect becomes even more pronounced if I zoomed in. So the first chart we were looking at was for total price mentions over the entire first year. This one is just the last 3 months, so much more recently, looking at like prices around our current levels of Bitcoin that people are talking about. Same two groups, Bitcoin traders versus Bitcoiners. And you'll see as a percentage here, it's an even higher difference. It's almost double the rate here and a little bit more than double the rate at the 40K level. So this is 30K, this is 40K. So on average, these traders are really targeting these low levels, and I think they're fucking delusional. Second and final one that we'll do in this video is another group. So we're looking at Bitcoin traders still in blue, but in the gray here, we now have Bitcoin Treasury investors. So those are people like deep in the MicroStrategy, MetaPlanet space. And what I found right away was that this group was arguably even more bullish on their price level targets than these traders were. Notably, first and foremost, we'll look at the $1 million price level on the far right here. Again, it's often like bull posting and that sort of things, but I do think it's quite interesting that these treasury investors are talking about some of these higher price levels. We also continue to see this trend of talking more frequently about higher price levels among the treasury investors comparatively to traders. Once we get way farther down here to the 60K level, the 40K level, and the 30K levels, once again, you see the traders talking way more frequently about these levels than the treasury investors who don't care quite as much about them. To the rate where it's like even more extreme than it's been in the previous data sets. This language-based cohort analysis stuff has been one of the most interesting rabbit holes I've ever went down. If you have other cohorts or groups or individuals that you want me to look through their language for what price levels they're talking about, hit me up. I'll gladly check them out. In closing, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming up to me at the Bitcoin conference and talking to me about all this crazy sentiment stuff. This has been a trip for me. If you do want to see any more of it, I have a whole archive of stuff linked in my bio under Substack. And as always, stay bullish.